Welcome to PM Express Business Edition. Well, on the average, diesel prices crossed the 20 Ghana cedi mark for a litre. And there are even predictions that it could be going higher than that. Development on the global market is still unstable, while the local currency, the Ghana cedi, is struggling to stabilize firmly against the US dollar. But are we going to see an end in sight very soon, or things could be getting bad as the days goes on with respect to prices of petroleum products on the market? Well, one industry that is responsible for distributing these products is the bulk distributors firms. And today, we are engaging its new CEO, Dr. Patrick Okofori, to get some thoughts from him about whether things are going to improve or they're going to get worse. Doc, thank you so much for your time, and you're welcome to PM Express.
Thank you very much, George.
Let me first get some understanding. I mean, you got into this position very soon. I mean, recently, if I should use that from. You were with GMPC. One would want to ask, why the flip? I mean, GMPC making some good bucks as well to come to the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors. Why the flip, if I should ask, Doc?
Well, change is something that is eminent in anybody's life. And then as we grow career-wise, we want to accept fresh and new challenges. And at least the environment that I'm currently working in, although this transition wasn't that smooth sailing from what I was doing, but I still think that it's worth it. And working here with lovely staff and what my predecessor did, and having young, youthful directors that spans from varied career background, I think it's only pleasant for me to accept such a challenge and build on what I inherited.
But one would say, I asked this question because this industry is quite a turbulent one, and at your older place, you were having a very calm and all the rest. You thought about all these things before you accepted to join this industry as its CEO?
Definitely, I talked about it. Where you think about job security and the safety, and then also the comfort zone. But many a times, living life in itself is risky. So you need to accept that there are fresher challenges that may carry some level of uncertainty, and the risk aspect of it that makes it exciting to join the bandwagon. And that is why gambling and sports and those kind of activities pays.
Your background is in sports as well, but you work with an oil industry. I mean, some would say that quite interesting, some would say.
I would say that I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
I'm a teacher and a psychologist. I started as a teacher. I made a transition into becoming a sports psychologist. That was more or less combining my passion with my career. And I love my research. And it's all about issues about compliance. Many people want to look at it from that aspect, but I'm also trained as a finance person, finance and accounting background, which has also given me the opportunity to live from. You look at the seasoned executives. How many of you even know that Mr. Alex Moore and the rest were engineers? So they all make that transition from that. So that is some of these things that you need to accept and move on.
It appears you enjoy risk or taking on risk. Some would say that, looking at the job that you've span of years and what you've done over the years.
Yeah, I would say I'm very competitive, and I love environment that are challenging and competition, and that are competitive driven.
How have you settled in so far? I mean, I talk about the turbulent industry because of, whilst you're also working hard to deal with the concerns of your members, you're also taking bashing and hate from consumers, from other market regulators and all the rest, and the pressure cooker is always boiling up. And I'm asking that, how have you been managed to settle in? Because it looks like the ship is not waiting for anyone. It is sailing, and those who can catch it will be able to sail with the ship.
I came in well prepared to cope with such turbulent times. So I think the timing of mine coming in was the best time for me to step in, at least. Although it was a heated welcome, but it's something that I'm built up for. if you know my background from where I've been coming from, I think some of these things are things that we've been prepared and big to cope with. So definitely, I think I would say it was still the perfect timing for me to join. And I'm loving the support that I'm getting from both industry players, my members, and then the staff internally, my predecessor, and a couple of other people that I've also built the network with. And don't forget that previously I've handled my GMPC's relationship with the key stakeholders, the PIAC, and all the Parliamentary Select Committee, working with Ministry of Finance. So the stakeholder group that I was working with are predominantly the same, with the exception of maybe some of them that concentrated only on the upstream side. But here as well, there are some of them that we've cascaded from other relationships that we've built over the years. So that makes the transition a bit smooth sailing.
How is the industry doing now? I mean, quite challenging times, some would say. I mean, how are you guys sailing through the storm? Or some would say that, I mean, BDCs have always been able to build the muscles or the shock absorbers to withstand turbulent times.
Yeah, on the flip side of it, whereas others will want to compare what we are doing with the profits that the Shells and the BPs are recording, we are on the other side bleeding seriously big, because basically about the currency depreciation and then also the turbulent time that we are in, that we don't necessarily have strong trading instruments and other things that back us to lock in prices and volume. So you are easily torn between the storms and the weather. So you more or less, we are driven by external factors, and then also, unfortunately for us, our currency has also not been that stable. That gave us that double agony. But all the same, I think some of our members have really done well. And previously, the shocks and other things that the government would have been taking are those shocks that some of our members are taking. And those subsidies that government would have stepped into support any government agency, if it was a government entities that were trading, those shocks are being funded by private individuals. And that is why I'm so proud of some of them putting profit behind them, and then also focusing on how do we ensure that the people that we employ, we're able to keep them in the midst of all these challenges that companies are even more or less cutting down or downsizing and other things. The BDCs have been very prudent in ensuring that our members and their staff are at least are kept above waters, and that is something that I intend inviting researchers to learn, and then so that we can mutually share with other sectors of the economy how our members have managed to stem the storm.
You talked about your members bleeding, and there are some on the street or some consumers who will still struggle to appreciate. And I'll use the BPX as an example, even though you want to explain to us that the market and the modelings are different. I mean, we had these oil companies just about a year ago complaining about going through challenges and all the rest, but the numbers show there are some on the street, there are some consumers out there who still struggle to understand that indeed you guys are bleeding, and they think that, well, you guys are making super normal profits and all the rest, and you are not passing on to consumers in terms of pricing. There have been times when it's been quite cheaper, the city was not a challenge, and we're still not feeling that impact of declining crude prices, of declining prices of petroleum products on the international market in terms of what you sell to the OMCs.
It's not the same story that in the developed or the advanced economies you are able to calculate all these things, and all these are done through established research agencies or the tax authorities having the needed resources to analyze these traders, their books, to be able to find out where the profits and those gains have come from. But in our case, let me give you a typical example. Most of these commodities are traded, and the volumes in which we trade in are volumes that you can't actually use it as a base, like the shares and then the Vitors or the Traffics, who more or less control the world the word energy economy. And don't also forget that in addition to even trading in these fossil fuels and other things, they've diversified their portfolios. That there are some of them that also have got huge investment in other commodities and
derivatives that they also trade in,
that they also trade in. So clearly, when you are comparing or making the assumption that these companies are making these abnormal profits, you forget that we play in different leagues and different environments that also somehow put us at a disadvantage. None of all these international traders and other things even pay the quantum of fees as licensing fee to trade in any of those jurisdictions. But here we're paying a whooping over $300 and something thousand for each members to be able to have the license renewal on an annual basis. How many businesses have an annual turnover of $300,000? And if you, at the beginning of the year, you had even bought a government bonds with $300,000, how much profit would you be making?
But if it's that is so expensive, and sorry to just to come in that, if it's that expensive, the input cost is so expensive. There are some who say that even for an economy like Ghana, and I don't know the numbers right now, if you help me in terms of the membership, there are some who are saying that the number of BDCs and even OMCs, they're too many for a small economy like this. If others are not using the license for something else, and I stand to be educated, you explain to me the cost of even coming into the industry and operating is so high, but you still have a large membership.
We have a large membership, and that is something that is beyond our control. Under normal circumstances, you see that, well, the bigger your membership, you are likely to receive more in terms of subscription payment. But I was looking at it from a nationalistic perspective at what you are saying about the numbers and how many of them are trading. How many of them are actually trading on a regular basis. And this is something that is more about regulatory and policy directives. None of us sitting here are the ones who grant those launches. Neither are we the ones who are supposed to set the benchmark for enforcement of those licensing regime and the requirements and the kind of reporting and the standards that are expected from us. That falls within the regulators' perspective or purview. But what we want to know, what we are so happy about, is that setting up a certain performance criteria that makes it so I think that makes it so elaborate and then also conducive, and that you know that once there are certain targets and certain advantages that exist for our membership or people who are doing the right thing to be able to leverage on. In that case, like you're saying, if we were, let's say, 20 or even 15 of the membership who have traded and have been able to have been supported to build the necessary reporting mechanism and the internal governance and then regulatory requirements and structures, by now we could have also had a local form of the trophies or the Glencores that would be maybe exporting to other countries to also be earning the much needed forex that the country is in need of. So there are conversations going on about how they can streamline the sectors. But this is something that we as a chamber cannot necessarily set the guidelines to the government. It's
a regulatory thing. But what do you tell consumers or those who would argue that maybe the time has come to raise the bar a little bit, and let's see that whether that could cut down the number of players, both the distribution end and the marketing end?
What I would want to see, you know, when it's about regulations and then not just a punitive regulatory measures, but regulatory that comes in with measures that seek to support local players to be able to develop opportunities and then to even extend and open their folds. If the regulatory regime becomes so friendly, conducive, but rather also spoke on what the do's and the don'ts, you are able to nurture and identify those that you can use government relationships and government networks to also extend and gradually position Ghanaian entrepreneurs in the space that we operate in. So definitely it's something that is beyond our core, but clearly there is the need for us to open that, start that discussion and then to build on that to ensure that we all have an enabling, opening environment that ensure that the consumer out there is not short-chain. And as I'm speaking to you, none of the consumers are short-chain.
So that would be quite beatable, Doc. And I'll be coming back to you to get the perception and the reality. But Doc, I'll just be coming back to you to get some more understanding about what is happening, why prices are so high. Is it a city issue? Is it a credit issue? Is it a regulatory issue? Or maybe your members, again, and sorry for my choice of words, are taking advantage of consumers. This is PM Express Business Edition as we look at the increasing prices of petroleum products on the market, whether there is an end in sight or prepare to pay for more. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express as we talk about fuel prices and whether we could be seeing an end in sight into those substantial increment that we witnessed over the past 1 week or 2 weeks in terms of pricing of petroleum products. And we are engaging an industry that is responsible for distributing these products in bulk quantities, and whether we can get some insight as to whether things are going to improve very soon or things are going to get bad going forward. Doc, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate it so much. Let me come and get some understanding. I mean, we've had things being put around us. It is the Ghana cedi depreciating. So as long as it depreciates, you are going to pay more. But I sometimes want to roll back to maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, where we had some fair stability, and some still complain that the pricing of the product was high and they put the blame on taxes and all the rest. What is happening right now? While we are seeing, and some will say, let's get it from the horse's own mouth, from what we are being reading from the textbook and the analysts and all the rest. From the BDC perspective, why are prices going up so much?
Fortunately for us, we are involved in one of the most transparent trading regime ever, especially with the MPA. You go to the MPA website, even to the extent that they give you the exchange rate. In addition to that, the trading of crude oil and its related products are internationally benchmarked, and that there are existing international platforms that these commodities are traded on. So it's not like, let's say, something like having a fowl or a bunch of plantain that you've taken from your backyard farm, and you are able to negotiate, and then the one who negotiate harder get the huge or a big of discount. So all these factors that goes into the pricing of this commodity is known to everybody who is an industry player or who follows the business news on a day-to-day basis. I think you might have checked Platts or Argos to know how much crude oil is trading this morning. And then also, we also know how much it will cost the fleet, the shipment, and then the insurance and all those figures that are involved for it to get to our doorsteps. And then comes in the almighty Forex. You use these international transactions that you require international instruments, maybe letters of credit, maybe having open account with these traders that they believe that you've conducted yourself, that they could trust you, that I can give you this commodity, and then maybe in a month or 45 days time, you make sure the necessary payments are done. The most unfortunate aspect of it is that whilst our currency has not necessarily behaved well or performed any better, the risks that these BDCs face is the Forex exchange rate and then also its availability. That we know how we even struggle, that you've sold the products to the OMCs in CD, and then you receive your money in CDs, but you still have got an extra layer of duty to search and ensure that you get dollars in order to settle your payments. A lot of people are talking about the BDCs making profit. You have no idea what some of them have gone through in the last 3 or 4 months. Let me give you a typical example.
But we've not seen anyone collapsed yet.
You normally would not see that some of them who wanted to trade cautiously decided that, you know something, enough, I'm not trading. We'll sit down and look at how the market behaved and when things normalize before we come in. There are others who are also risk averse and who love to take those gambles. But I can tell you, most of them are bleeding. And I go into meeting with some of our members. You look straight into their eyes and you could clearly see that it's difficult times for some of them and how they even are able to.
And they are still in business. What is the pull factor? What else is sustaining them that when they are still bleeding, they still want to be in business?
You are bleeding and you still want to, it's like a gambler who is losing but still have got faith that things are going to improve and that you need to continue to play before you can recover some of the losses that you've made. And clearly, it hasn't been easy. Like I was talking about, giving you a typical example. You know, there was a point in time that when the Russia-Ukraine started and that there was that fear that product shortages world over and other things. So a lot of products were imported in tank. We brought in a lot of products in country. And then the city started misbehaving. You've locked in these products at a certain rate that by the time after you've sold the product and you are going to buy Forex, it has started going a certain trajectory. That clearly was not within the arena.
So is the local, the depreciation was a major problem?
Was a major problem.
And that is why it is contributing to these prices.
Clearly, and then also the international prices. And recently
it's dropped down to about 93, some would say.
It hasn't. About 2 weeks ago it was less than that. But now it has started picking up.
But still below $100, some would say.
But why would you expect to pay, if you are to even go back in President Kufuor's time, 2017, when crude oil hit 130 something. And then that time it was even, the city was 1.2 to $1 or so. But even that, how much were we paying? It was a major issue. So that notwithstanding, about the volumes of products that you've brought in country that I was talking about, and then also maturing LCs that you quickly need to cash in on. So most of the members, in order to keep their credit lines open and then also to keep their banks happy, needed to even give super abnormal discounts on products, knowing clearly that they were even going to make some losses because they needed to meet those obligations because the sanctions and other things that are linked to not being able to honor your LCs and then also not being able to honor your commitment in terms of open credit and its reputation, its consequence to your business reputation and your ability to even stay afloat was therein. So they took in all these measures to ensure that they are able to stay afloat. And then comes in the Forex issue. Then now you've sold, you have billions of cedis sitting in your accounts, but you can't get Forex to buy. And the pricing. You look back, just the trading window before this one, I sat in front of one of my directors. She thought she was so smart. What was the exchange rate? They said, oh, maybe for forwards, if you put in 13, you're still okay, you're good to go. So she said, well, let me go a bit up and say 13.5 to ensure that at least I've put on a margin of 0.5 to deal with the risk, to deal with the uncertainty. Ask her finance manager to call their banks how much dollars they can get for them. They just needed, she was trading within a certain amount. The finance manager, she just signed off to an OMC at 13.5. In 2 hours' time that the finance manager came back to her that the cheapest dollar available is 14.2. In that transaction alone, selling to just one OMC, the BDC made losses to the tune of $1.3 something million.
So you're bleeding. That is what
that,
I get to understand.
That was just in one trading window. Now others were thinking of moving to a spot, forgetting that you've given credit facilities to others, the OMCs, for maybe 1 week or 2 weeks, because you want to follow the normal trading window cycles that we are operating in. Once such incidents happens to you, you can't just throw caution to the wind and continue adopting the same mechanism. So all we're trying to judge or to find out how to do. Then comes in having the CD sitting in your bank account and not being able to. One of our major players has a dollar obligations of a minimum $23 million a week, whilst the Bank of Ghana gives us $120 million a month. I'm talking about just one player. So you look at the challenges that they go through in order to. So some of them told their finance manager, this time around, even if it's a $1 that somebody is willing to sell to you, you buy it, because having one at any point in time somehow lessen your exposure.
You talked about not getting dollars and the struggle, and it's everywhere. Is the problem about the availability of dollars, or is the price that someone is willing to sell to you? Because I struggle. I mean, there are someone saying that, listen, we have dollars, but it's the price, or people are not willing to buy at this price. Even some of the banks. I mean, what is the problem when it comes to the availability of dollars for your members to buy? Is it the price that is an issue that you may be making, aggravating your loss, or is it non-availability?
It's both. It's both. One, because for some of them, they will say, if it's available and at whatever price, they will. Because the danger of not meeting those commitments is also very severe. So even if I do the calculation, because the more I wait to pay, I'm not guaranteed that I will have the opportunity to even trade again in order to even recoup my pump-up investment. So whatever it takes for you to get the dollar in order to settle your debtors, you are more than willing to.
Aren't your members bidding more in terms of the fear that there will be non-availability of dollars in 3 weeks' time? So when I bid to the banks and I actually need about $50 million, because of the scarcity, I'll bid for about $400 million with the banks. I mean, I ask this because apart from the open market supply of dollars, you have some of your commercial banks, you have Bank of Ghana, the normal auction route, and then the specialized auction route as well. All these avenues is still not enough to meet the demand of your members in terms of dollar supply?
Certainly.
That is interesting.
It's interesting in the sense that you look at our appetite for other foreign products and how many people are chasing for the dollars. It becomes difficult. So the issue about people thinking that we are double quoting to various banks to get that. Now,
is that the situation?
Not really.
You're not bidding higher than what you actually need.
Because now the banks, we have a very good relationship with the bank through their bank, the Bankers Association. So normally some of the things that we do is we all compare notes and check and scrutinize even the contracts that you have for the supply, so that we ensure that whatever dollar a bank is giving to a BDC is definitely going into the importation of the product. So that is the extent of transparency that has happened there. So there isn't double bidding for any form of dollars that is automatically also pushing the prices up. But clearly, the normal basis economics, demand and supply issue, once there is a huge demand for it, you want to. And the pressures that are put on the city clearly tells you how it has depreciated. And it's not something that the BDCs are the only one complaining about. You've heard about the Gutes, the pharmaceutical group, and almost every institution or bodies that are involved in the importation of whatever products, or be it essential or luxury commodities.
Doc, I'll be coming to you to get some understanding again about the fear that, looking at all these challenges, if I should drive to the service station maybe 2 weeks from now, there will be issues with product supply, and whether those predictions and forecasts are true. And also about the current credit system that you're getting from the banks. We understand that BOG has stepped in to deal with the single obligation issues with the commercial bank in terms of lending. How will all these things play into supply of product, and also the concern about whether there are some cheaper product out on the world market that we can get it in? This is PM Express Business Edition, as we engage the chief executive of the bulk distributors companies in terms of what is the industry saying about all these things, and whether prices could be coming down very soon. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition, as we talk about fuel pricing and whether the outlook will be favorable for a lot of consumers out there who are worried about the current developments and whether things could be going down very soon. I'm engaging the chief executive of the Chamber of Bulk Distributors to get some thoughts and understanding from him in terms of current happenings and how that would impact on prices. And Doc, let me come to a very, very interesting thing about this whole credit lines and credit support from the commercial banks and the review of the single obligor limit from the Bank of Ghana and all the rest. As we speak right now, what is the current state of the discussion in terms of the Bank of Ghana reviewing this requirement for the banks so that they can extend more credit to you?
I think we must commend our Minister of State. I think we started a discussion with him, and that through his effort that we even got the Bank of Ghana auctioning. So whilst even the governor was at the World Bank IMF negotiation, I think he had spoken to him for them to look at the extent of how best they can step in. We're also having discussions through our normal relationship that we have with the Bankers Association of Ghana. That also yielded a lot of results for us, and we both had the opportunity of meeting the president, with the governor and the finance minister, and in all those discussions, they all seems to appreciate the extent to which that is an issue with regards to fuel supply, and also how the bank, that is also crippling the bank's ability to support other sectors of the economy. And right there, the governor assured us that we should count it down. And since then, I've not heard any of our members complaining about the issue of the single obligor limit. Which
so has it been reviewed, or it is yet to be reviewed? Or per the engagement that your members are having with the commercial banks, it looks like it's already been done?
I think since Monday, I haven't had any of our members coming to me with that particular issue. But previously, they would have called and said that the banks are dragging their feet based on this. So I assume that the discussion and the assurance from the governor in the presence of the president has been kicked in.
How is that impacting on supplies?
That could have impacted on supply because, like we stated earlier on, at the beginning of the year, if I had, let's say, 65 million Ghana cedis credit line, that gave me, let's say, $10 million supply line to be able to import products worth $10 million. The banks could go to the extent of, let's say, 70 million Ghana cedis for you. But that's at even now, if you still have that 70 million Ghana cedi, it means you can only import products worth about half of that amount. That is about, let's say, 7. If it was giving you 10 million and now you are buying the dollars maybe 7, it means you can only import products worth $4 to $5 million. So because of that, we needed to have that discussion to ensure that these are extended, and then the credit lines exposure is even quoted in USD, so that our members can still bring in products worth $10 million. That will also revamp the supply side of it, and to able to lock in products to the normal cycles that they bring the products in. So that was something that was also going to affect us. But clearly, once the directive came and most of our members are comfortable with that, I think the banks are also comfortable now to ensure that they can still keep that going. The other aspect that was definitely going to affect the supply line was the issue of the Forex availability, because some of the key IOTCs were a bit skeptical, especially when the rating agencies downgraded Ghana. Some of them started to review their outlook on Ghana. Their compliance and risk teams started flagging out and saying, no, you know something, you can't continue exposing us to a country that has been downgraded. So that was also an issue. So we needed to also engage them to assure them that we have what it takes to make those payments. Some were very accommodating to the extent that they would also want to check from your banks if you have that CD equivalent sitting in your account to be able to fulfill those payments. And gradually, I think that pressure has been able to ease. And then once they also got that assurance from BOG that at least a quantum of dollars has been allocated to the sector, it made them comfortable knowing that irrespective of what, the normal payment cycles, at least there are 2 or 3 million here or there, is guaranteed, that through the Bank of Ghana auctioning. And we're hoping that the governor, after the other deliberations, may be stepping up to also ensure that we get more access to Forex to be able to meet that. And they were also comfortable, of course, because they know the Cocoa Board syndicated loan was also coming in. So the issue about having access to Forex to also meet those commitments was gradually calming down. And now we are in a smooth driving seat where the product supply will be there. But availability is one issue. Affordability is something that we can guarantee.
We should be assured that in terms of shortage, there wouldn't be till end of year to first quarter. In
as much as you are paying the right prices, you shouldn't be scared of.
There's a condition, right, where the right prices. So whose responsibility is it? Is it for the OMCs or MPA or what? Because I get from you that in one breath, listen, we have products, there's no shortage, rule everything out. But as we're paying the right price, right?
You know, I'm saying paying the right price in the sense that, you know, we need to be clear and we need to be frank and objective to ourselves. These are commodities that are not produced or refined in Ghana that previously we could step in and the government acts say, Toll should pump in the products and at this price. And that culminated in Toll's situation. If the BDC imports the products in and then sell it short of what the market is indicating and then what the exchange rate is, obviously that BDC or that OMC will not be able to meet its commitments along the value chain. And once you default in payment, automatically you'll be cut off the supply line. Others will talk about the IOTCs bringing products in tank. We've had the chance of having that discussion for some time past. No IOTC will put the products in tank and accept subsidies. So there's still the Forex risk because nobody is willing and prepared to underwrite that Forex risk. So that is the kind of risk that the BDCs are stomaching, and that is what is keeping them going. The moment the product leave the vessel in tank, they assume the international price volatility. They need, who are they passing that on? Because the product up there can also even reduce in price, it can fall, the international price can come out. If OPEC decide in a week's time that we are pumping more products, or US decide that they are releasing more their strategic reserves into the market, automatically that will push prices down. Once those prices have been pushed down, the IOTCs don't want to have that risk. So they would not necessarily be interested in committing more products in tank for you when they know their inability to undertake some of these risks. And some of them are also willing to deal with particular BDCs that they have a long-standing relationship with, that they know they can have access to some of their assets in case they are unable to meet their financial obligations or commitments to them. So it's a bit of a thorny issue, and it's not the making of any particular BDC who would want to be the one being accused of putting the prices up high that way. None of us, our friends, our family, and everybody, we all buy for. And especially like a recent one, I was locked up in a meeting. I left after 11 p.m. knowing that the next day the prices were going up. I couldn't feel, but yet the next morning I went and buy the new price.
Interesting.
So these are issues that affect almost everyone.
Do you have any special service stations that you drive to get a specialized or a discount price and all the rest? But I just want to come back to this thing about, is there any cheaper source of petroleum product out in the global market that your members are not bringing to us?
Well, petroleum product goes with certain specific specifications, and that when the product specifications are what it is, you cannot get that below a certain price. But you know, when government speak about having a cheaper source, you know, government is capable of anything.
But Dr. Foy, I mean, if there's any cheaper source out there, I mean, knowing
no, but
where
you follow
in this industry. Is there a cheaper source of petroleum out there in the market?
It could.
Is there?
For now, it could be cheaper depending on the agreement that you are having with the person. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you are not giving something back. Because if you go through a history, previously Ghana was selling at a cheaper rate because of TOR. And then there were times that you get the G2G, the normal government-to-government relationship that they will give you. Even that one, you pay through your nose because in 3 months' time, I just imagine, let's say, we had a cheaper source from, let's say, Nigeria. Nigeria had decided to give us some...
Similar example during Kufuor's time,
Sahara
Energy. There was an agreement put together.
And then you do all the swaps and other things. If you are unable to manage your currency in 3 months' time, could you imagine if you had a cheaper source some 3 months ago, when the dollar was around 8 cedis, and now you are now going to pay and you have to buy dollar at what? At what rate?
14 or maybe
14. So
13 or
that alone could have also created some element of cost that future generations or the future taxpayer will still pay. So there isn't any avenue that you can do that. But you know, normally government through other commingled agreements could find a way of stepping in to take the burden or the pressure off the supply of the consumer.
So I get from you that the cheaper would not necessarily be the product, but maybe the whole financing arrangement that you could struck with the other supplier.
With the other supplier, and then also it could be that the other cheaper source that you are talking about, there was that opportunity that those suppliers, through either hedging or any form of instruments, were able to hedge against the prices. So maybe they were smart and lock in a certain quantum of product at maybe $60 or $50. And now the price is at 90. So if it's given to the Ghana government at even 70, and know that Ghana government is giving them something in return or certain opportunities or certain waivers, it makes sense for them to do those transactions.
I'll be coming back to get your thoughts on this whole thing, but I'm just asking myself that is it because it's a government-to-government level? If there's this cheaper source or financing arrangement out there for petroleum products, why are your members not going for that?
They may not necessarily be able to go for that because of economies of scale and the volumes that we trade in. The volumes is very critical in some of these things. So the discounts that you get based on the volume that you are bringing in is also a factor in determining how you got about how you're able to navigate that. What kind of trading instruments are you using? What kind of terms of payment, and what other things are you willing to deal with? Don't forget, some years back in Jamaica, they did that. Glencore, Marco Ritchie and Co. did those kind of transactions for a Jamaican government. They ended up exchanging for their aluminium plant and all that, whereby both their sugarcane factory and other things were taken over, because to them, Marco Ritchie and the rest were trading and giving them those refined products. But they've also taken care of Jamaica sugar and then all the other opportunities, and they were swapping in Russia and other places, selling to get those things. So you need to look at the dynamics and how you are getting that in. We never doubt government ability to do that, but whatever it means, either we pay for it something, how
it will come at a cost.
It will definitely come at a cost.
Because some have described that announcement and even news that they are in Dubai or out there engaging in all this as a wishful thinking. For you, do you think that we're going to get that deal and it's going to come onto this market?
Don't underestimate government when government wants to do anything. But what we've said with regards to that is we are more than willing to engage government on the way forward on any avenue of cheaper source that we can also play along the supply chain. Because don't forget, once the product is that cheaper and it's coming into the market, it all helps us to also meet certain commitments and certain contracts that we already have in existence. So that also gives us an opportunity to leverage on and go and build up on that. Don't forget, some of our members owns these depots and other things. So once these cheaper products are coming in and people's appetite for it are going up, we are in business and we are able to also use the opportunity to offset some of the losses. But the key to all these cheaper sources that is still the currency that we are going to use to trade. And I'm yet to see if maybe whatever that cheaper sources, they are going to accept subsidies or they are going to accept any form of a barter agreement or something. It's something that we need to look at it. Previously, in 2014, 2015, you must be aware that GMPC was asked to step in to bring products to Tor and Bost for them to supply. It cost GMPC, and as we are speaking, all these amounts still sit in GMPC's books, and so it's not being paid. So no matter how we go about it, we need to look at it. But whilst we are having the conversation on the cheaper source of energy and other things, we need to also start looking at the possibility of efficiency, energy use efficiency, and how best we can also enhance our transport systems, and then also as families and individuals, and even as corporate entities, decide that, the cost and the burden on transportation on our staff. In these measures, we may decide to do some form of maybe 2 days in the office, 2 days or 3 days working at home. We need to start having a broader conversation on all these aspects. And then also hope that China also don't attack Taiwan.
That could also
fuel
thing altogether. I mean, Doc, diesel is 20 now. If you had told me that diesel will reach 20 per liter 2 years ago, I would say you are a wizard, or I'll say that you're a prophet of doom. I mean, holding the currency issues constant, and even this credit thing that has been finalized. Have we peaked yet in terms of pricing of petroleum products, or listen, we should still be expecting some spikes before it normalizes?
The last time I checked, I never want to be in a situation whereby I want to be the one predicting what happens in the future, because what is happening currently is beyond any, no matter...
I know, but I mean, the peaking, we have this thing that we will see some normal spikes, but 20, and if you look at the past month, the spike that we've seen...
It should have gone there before that.
So
it should have gone there before that.
Things are going to normalize, or listen, not boxing you down into specific pricing, but should we be expecting other marginal hikes? So we've peaked and there will be some marginal adjustment, holding the CD issue constant and even this credit things as well.
Once the most unfortunate aspect is that the determinants of the pricing are things that none of us are able to control, especially the international pricing. We are unable to. Neither are we also able to manage how the city will perform. But once there is relatively stability in the cities and the international prices remain the same, I can't foresee any of such happening. And then also, once the government's initiative of bringing cheaper energy sources is able to come in that case, definitely the prices will have to reflect how much you are buying from your source. And in that case, we expect the MPA and all of us and now our members to whip our members in line and ensure that you know something. The general public and everybody is bleeding. We can't continue to be this insensitive. But I can tell you from the last few or so engagement that we do, mostly the conversation to our members has been, even if you're able to break even, let's hold on and be able to break even and stop thinking about making profits or anything for now.
It's interesting you've spoken about the argument about breaking even and profits and all the rest. There are some, and I was having a conversation with a friend today who said that, George, we are blaming all our woes on the dollar. I bet you, let the city even stabilize today or the rate of depreciation slow significantly for the dollar to claw back or the city's dollar to claw back to like 10 Ghana cedi. These oil marketing companies and BDCs will never pass on the cost to us. They'll shift the blame to rising cost of operations and all the rest. And they are using those gains to clean up that cost. If the city should stabilize today or claw back to 1 Ghana cedi or 10 Ghana cedis to $1, are your members going to pass on those costs to the OMCs for us to benefit?
Why not? Because, you know...
Is that a reality?
It's a reality because...
Or you come up with arguments of...
No. We don't, because, you know, the rising...
You are bleeding...
That is...
Forex losses...
No.
You can't pass on
that is somehow scrutinized by MPA that you cannot go beyond a certain rate. You can't go and then... The issue about your operational costs has increased and other things, it's irrelevant. Forex, you can't be making that argument, especially when everybody knows that the exchange rate is 10 to 1 is to 10. You can't make that argument because, you know, the beauty of our industry is such that it's a template. So once you plug in the various figures, you see how the output is supposed to be. The transparency.
Some will say that we've been there before where we saw some stability with just currency, but we didn't see that impact on prices.
No, at that period that they talk about, the government introduced a new tax to building to make up for.
So
and that
if it hadn't been that tax, prices should have been
of course,
down.
because none of our members can be able to absorb the tax component. And neither are we in a position to even pass on the Forex losses.
So the commitment I get from you that if it should normalize, consumers will benefit.
Why not?
What is your thought about subsidy and how quickly, because of time constraints, you're wrapping up, the NPA has taken the subsidy on the RFO? Some are worried about the cost of that to industries. And again, that being passed on to consumers as well. Shouldn't we still have had that subsidy on RFO?
No, I am not in support of that.
Is it because you want your members to get the ready? They are not getting the raw value of the product because
it's
government is delaying to pay that subsidy to them?
That argument is different, but I'm looking at it from the energy transition model. Why do you subsidize RFO at the expense of LPG and then put taxes on LPG? RFO is more or less seen as a dirty fuel. So why would you want to give subsidy on a dirty fuel and then sign up to COP27 or COP26 and say that you want to push into energy transition? So we need to, so when the minister made that announcement, I think I was happy at least for the energy transition argument sake, and then also the other aspect of it. Why give out what you don't have? Giving a subsidy that you know you can't. So assuming if the government was owing you subsidies to the tune of, let's say, even 10 million, as at maybe April or June, the government has not paid you. The commodity that you traded in is a dollar-denominated commodity. And then the government is paying you back even after 3 or 4 months. Is it fair to that businessman?
Do you think it's a good thing to
it's a good thing. It's a good thing to that. You know, when you talk about subsidy to a sector like the premix and other things, I support that, because that is for industry. It shouldn't.
Because of time constraints, as you wrap up, your final thoughts in terms of the outlook for the industry, in a minute or 2 minutes, and also for consumers who are still worried that, listen, it's so turbulent that I should brace myself to pay more, and also for the industry as well in terms of BDCs. As we wrap up, your final thoughts and outlook as well.
The outlook for the industry, although it may be challenging, but I think in such challenges comes opportunities. So within these challenges, we need to build the internal robust mechanisms and systems that will transform the sector. And this is where we call on all relevant stakeholders. And this is where, as a chamber, we are more than willing to cooperate with government agencies, sister institutions, the Chamber for Mines, the Bankers Association and all that, for us to develop a robust system that ensure that we all coexist and collaborate to ensure the overall development of our country. Ghana is the only place that we want to be.
Doc, I thank you so much for your time. This has been PM Express Business Edition, engaging the Chief Executive of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors. And the debate will still go on in your homes and offices about whether the outlook is that favorable when it comes to pricing, or the assurance from the Chamber that when the city firmly stabilizes, appreciates and drops, you would benefit from what is happening on the Forex market. My name is George Wiafe. Have a great day.